They broke his bones. They shattered his body. But not once did they break his mind. Centuries ago, deep in the heart of the Song Mountains, a Shaolin disciple stood unmoved after days of harsh punishment. His crime, disobedience. His lesson, endurance without hatred. The pain was undeniable, but he had been trained not to suffer. This is not a legend. This is a reality, lived and breathed by those who walk the path of the Shaolin. In this video, you will uncover the difference between pain and suffering, a lesson most never hear, not in schools, not in books, and certainly not in modern life. You will learn how Shaolin monks are taught from childhood to feel pain fully, but never allow it to define who they are. You will understand how emotions, when unexamined, become the true source of suffering. How identity, when tied to wounds, creates a prison invisible to the eye. And how ancient teachings, refined over 1,500 years, can help you walk through life untouchable, not because pain disappears, but because you no longer serve it. If you've been hurt by others, if your past keeps echoing, if you carry pain like armor, this message is for you. Stay with me to the very end. There is a quiet truth waiting for you, a truth that can set you free. This is Shi Heng Yi. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. If this path speaks to you, walk with us and subscribe. The mind can become your temple or your tormentor. It depends on who is in control. You may train your body, sharpen your reflexes, prepare for enemies on the outside. But the greatest battles are never fought in the streets. They are fought in silence, inside your own mind. Doubt, anger, fear, judgment, these are not enemies from the outside. They are seeds planted by experience, watered by habit, and ignored until they grow into chaos. To conquer 1,000 men is nothing. To conquer yourself is everything. The world will always speak. It will insult you, reject you, praise you. But the real question is, what do you say back to yourself in that moment? When a monk faces pain, he does not immediately ask, "Why me?" He observes. He listens to the voice rising from within. That voice may say, "You are weak. You are not enough. You cannot endure this." That is the voice we learn to train. You see, inner dialogue is like a sword. If it is left unattended, it may cut you down 1,000 times a day. But if you learn to hold it with care, sharpen it with discipline, and use it with compassion, it becomes your greatest ally. Every day, your mind speaks. Every thought leaves a mark. And until you learn to watch your thoughts without becoming them, you will serve a master you do not know. The Shaolin path is not to silence the mind, it is to lead it. And before you lead the world, you must first lead yourself. In the West, mastery is often measured by speed, how fast you strike, how quickly you rise. But in the Shaolin tradition, it begins with stillness. Before the body moves, the breath must slow. Before the fist clenches, the mind must soften. A monk may train for years in silence before ever learning to fight. Not because combat is unimportant, but because without control of the inner world, all outer skill becomes reckless. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the presence of full awareness. In meditation, the monk sits with discomfort, boredom, noise, and watches it all without reacting. This is not weakness, this is training. To sit with your chaos and not flinch. To observe your emotions like clouds passing through the sky without chasing or resisting them. That is true discipline. Aggression is a reaction, stillness is a choice. In the ancient texts it is said, "The water that reflects clearly is the water that does not stir." The same is true for the mind. When still, it sees everything. It moves from wisdom, not impulse, from clarity, not fear. And when the world rages, when insult, loss, or chaos strike, the one who has mastered stillness does not waver. Their center holds, their response is measured, their peace remains untouched. Many train to move better, few train to be still. But those who do, walk through fire and do not burn. The ego is fragile. It demands recognition, control, and praise. And when it doesn't receive these things, it breaks, then blames the world for the pieces. Most suffering begins here, not with what happens, but with what the ego believes should not have happened. A word that wounds, a gesture ignored, a position challenged. None of these touch the spirit, they only bruise the illusion we protect. In Shaolin practice, ego is not seen as evil, only untrained. Like a wild horse, it would throw you unless you learn to guide it with calm strength. But the path does not end with detachment. We do not cut ourselves off from feeling. That is not mastery, it is avoidance. What we train instead is compassion. Compassion does not seek to win, it seeks to understand. It does not harden against pain, it absorbs it without letting it poison the heart. When insulted, compassion sees pain behind the words. When betrayed, it recognizes fear behind the act. This is not weakness, it is clarity. To see clearly is to free yourself from the endless war of the ego. Detachment from ego is not coldness, it is space. Space to respond instead of react. Space to forgive without forgetting who you are. Space to love without needing to be loved back. True freedom begins when you no longer measure yourself by how others treat you. You stop needing to defend your name. You stop chasing validation. You begin to serve something deeper, not self-importance, but inner truth. And in that space, peace is no longer something to chase. It is simply who you are when the ego is quiet and the heart is open. The unshakable mind is not born in comfort. It is forged in fire slowly, patiently, without escape. Shaolin disciples do not seek ease. Their path is lined with cold mornings, aching limbs, and silence. They carry water before dawn. They hold stances until the body trembles. They sit in meditation while the legs scream for movement. These are not punishments, they are invitations. Invitations to meet the edge of the mind, where excuses arise, where doubt begins, where the voice says stop, but they do not stop, they stay. Because every difficulty is a teacher in disguise. Pain reveals attachment, fatigue reveals resistance, boredom reveals the restless need for escape, and once seen clearly, these become tools, not threats. In ancient Shaolin taught, suffering is not the enemy, it is the sand that polishes the mirror of the spirit. Without it, clarity remains clouded, strength remains untested. An unshakable mind does not mean a life without trouble. It means trouble no longer controls you, challenge no longer offends you, failure no longer defines you. When trials come, as they always do, the untrained mind asks, "Why me?" The trained mind answers, "Thank you." Not from pride, but from understanding. Each challenge is a gate. Walk through enough of them and you are no longer the person who once feared them. You become stable in chaos, calm in crisis, whole in the presence of pressure. This is the silent power of Shaolin, not to avoid life's weight, but to carry it with a mind that no longer trembles. Before the body reacts, the mind has already moved. Before anger rises, a thought has already passed. Before sadness sinks in, the breath has already changed. This is why mindfulness is the first line of defense, not armor worn on the outside, but presence that protects from within. A Shaolin monk begins his day, not with action, but with awareness. Sitting in silence, he watches the breath move in and out. He feels tension before it becomes emotion. He notices thought before it becomes identity. In this way, nothing enters unnoticed. Most pain is not caused by the world, but by the way we meet it unconsciously. Words hurt more when we aren't aware of our reaction. Fear grows larger when we don't see it forming. A single thought left unchecked can become a storm. Mindfulness is the gatekeeper. It does not stop pain from arriving, but it stops pain from taking root. With awareness, you can see anger before it becomes speech. You can feel fear before it becomes paralysis. You can meet sadness without collapsing into it. In ancient practice, mindfulness is not limited to sitting still. It follows you through movement, through conversation, through conflict. Every step is observed. Every reaction is witnessed. The mind becomes a clear mirror, reflecting the world without distortion. This clarity builds a quiet strength, not loud, not aggressive, but firm. A mindful mind is not easily provoked. It does not rush. It does not cling. It watches, waits, and chooses. In this stillness, you become untouchable, not because nothing happens, but because everything is seen, understood, and released before it can harm you. The fortress is not made of stone. It is made of attention, and attention sharpened daily becomes the strongest shield you will ever carry. Emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. In ancient Taoist and Shaolin thought, every emotion carries energy, raw, powerful, and full of potential. Anger, sadness, fear, none of these are mistakes. They are forces of nature moving through the body. What matters is how we meet them. To suppress is to block the river. It builds pressure, invites chaos, and eventually breaks what resists it. But to observe, to guide, to transform, this is the path of emotional alchemy. Anger, when examined without violence, sharpens the mind. It reveals what matters. It clears away what is false. Held with awareness, it becomes clarity and strength. Sadness, when allowed to breathe, softens the heart. It deepens your connection to others. It dissolves pride. It teaches humility. In its stillness, there is wisdom. Fear, often misunderstood, is a signal, not a stop sign. It points to the edge of comfort, the gate of growth. Transformed, it becomes focus, precision, alertness in the face of the unknown. Shaolin training teaches the disciple not to fight emotions, but to welcome them as part of the inner landscape. Each one is a form of energy, and energy is never wasted when it is used with intention. The body feels, the mind names, but the spirit directs. When you stop running from emotion, you begin to work with it. When you stop labeling feelings as good or bad, you start to listen. And when you listen deeply, you find the hidden lesson in every wave. This is the essence of alchemy, not to destroy what you feel, but to refine it, to take the heat of pain and turn it into light. A loud voice does not require a loud answer, nor does a sudden strike demand a sudden response. In the way of the Shaolin, power lies not in reaction, but in observation. To react is to surrender. The moment pulls you in. The emotion takes the lead. Words are spoken before wisdom can speak. This is not mastery, it is reflex. But to observe is to remain sovereign over your own mind. Observation is stillness in the center of the storm. It is the space between impulse and action, between feeling and decision. In this space, freedom lives. The monk trains not just his body, but his awareness. In moments of pressure, he does not rush forward. He watches. He senses the movement beneath the surface, not just in the world, but in himself. He notices the rising heat of anger, the sharp edge of fear, the tightening of the chest. But he does not follow. He lets the emotion speak and then pass, like thunder rolling through the mountains, loud but not lasting. This discipline is not coldness. It is wisdom. It is the understanding that most harm is done in haste, that most regret is born in reaction. Ancient teachings remind us, the one who watches the fire does not get burned. The moment you become the watcher, you step outside the grip of the storm. Life will test you, people will provoke you, but these are only invitations, chances to see if the training holds. The observer remains calm. The observer does not get pulled. The observer chooses. And in that choice, you find a strength greater than force, the ability to move only when movement is right. The one who hurts you is not your master unless you allow them to control your response. In the Shaolin path, we are taught that justice in the outer world is uncertain. Sometimes it comes, often it does not. But the inner world, that is yours to govern. Revenge is a fire. It promises warmth, but burns the hand that holds it. It keeps the wound open. It ties you to the very thing you wish to be free from. And with every thought of retaliation, you become what once hurt you. The Shaolin master does not waste energy trying to correct the world. He redirects that energy inward, toward balance, toward clarity, toward response. Response is not weakness. It is measured power. It is the pause that comes before action, the breath that clears the mind, the decision made not from pride, but from principle. When you respond, you remain free. You are not pulled by rage or blinded by pain. You choose not what feels good in the moment, but what brings peace in the long run. Ancient wisdom tells us to win without fighting is the highest victory. Sometimes that means walking away. Sometimes it means standing firm with calm. But always it means choosing from awareness, not reaction. When insulted, respond with silence. When betrayed, respond with distance. When attacked, respond with discipline, not destruction. This is not about letting others escape accountability. It is about refusing to lose yourself in the process. You are not here to mirror pain back into the world. You are here to end the cycle, to be a resting place for the storm. And in doing so, you become truly powerful, because your peace is no longer at the mercy of others. The vessel is useful not because of its shape, but because of its emptiness. In Zen and Shaolin tradition, emptiness is not a lack. It is space. It is potential. It is freedom from form, so that all forms can move through without resistance. A mind that is full cannot learn. A heart that is crowded cannot rest. But when you begin to empty yourself of fixed ideas, of rigid expectations, of past pain clinging to every thought, you become light, you become open. Emptiness does not mean numbness. It means you are no longer bound by the weight of your own story. When insulted, you don't need to defend. There is nothing to protect. When praised, you don't cling to the words. There is nothing to inflate. You remain steady, untouched by storm or sun. This is why the Shaolin warrior trains to become like water. Water does not resist. It does not demand. It moves around stone, slips through cracks, and wears down the hardest mountain with patience. Or like air unseen, but everywhere, soft but unstoppable. It cannot be cut, contained, or broken. This is the strength of emptiness. You hold nothing, so nothing can be taken. You expect nothing, so nothing disappoints. You carry no grudge, so your spirit remains light. To become the empty vessel is to walk through life without being trapped by it. It is to live fully present, without dragging the past or fearing the future. And in this spaciousness, wisdom arises. Movement becomes effortless. Peace becomes natural. The world no longer pushes you off balance because there is no edge to push against. There is only openness, and in openness there is infinite power. The world will not stop testing you. People will still speak harshly. Life will still bring pain. But your power lies not in avoiding these moments, it lies in how you meet them. Through stillness, observation, and inner clarity, you begin to see pain differently. It is no longer something you carry, but something you witness. It passes like clouds in a white sky. You are not here to be untouched by life. You are here to be unmoved by what does not serve your peace. Every breath is a chance to choose again, to soften, to release, to respond with wisdom instead of reaction. This is not theory, it is practice. Daily, quietly, patiently, quietly. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to let go of what you are not. The fear, the story, the resistance. When you do, what remains is unshakable, calm, clear, invincible. Thank you for walking this path with us today. If this message resonates with your journey, we invite you to like this video and subscribe to Shaolin Soulfire, where ancient wisdom lights the way to inner strength. Until next time, walk with peace.